Hey guys, it's Coach Aaron here, and today I just wanted to do a quick piece on the biggest mistakes that people tend to make when they're looking to do a ketogenic diet. I'm a big fan of the ketogenic diets. I think just about everybody can gain from doing a ketogenic diet, but there's a lot of misunderstood methodology associated with keto and with regards to getting into keto. We're all familiar, any of us who've ever gone into a ketogenic diet or into a ketogenic state, or even gone very low carbs. You don't even have to go keto, full keto, for you to experience that sort of keto flu kind of symptoms. Some people seem to get a bigger whack from it than others. They can get very tired, they can find their training very hard to do, mental fog, and it can last for a couple of weeks, you know. It's not something you really want to do. The severity of your sort of keto flu symptoms, I'm not a big fan of the name keto flu. It's quite a descriptive name and it gets the point across, but it's not a flu, right? It's simply your body, which has been living on sugar for year after year after year after year, suddenly finds it has no access to its drug, and the body is trying to switch over to burning fat. And while this process is happening, everything can get a little bit awry. Okay, that's all it is. And like I said, for some people it's quick, other people it takes a little longer. Okay, but there are certain big mistakes that people tend to make when they're doing it. And the first one is sometimes they jump into keto, full keto, too quick. They read a book, could be Atkins' book, they could find something online. They could be reading Gary Taub's, any of these really good books that are out there on ketogenic living or low carb eating. And what they do is they decide, right, after 30 years, 40 years maybe of eating 300 to 500 grams of carbohydrate a day, every day, possibly more, they're suddenly going to cut it right down to 20, maybe 30, and they're just going to go for it. Yeah, you do that, chances are you're going to get a whack from it. Okay. You're going to get a big smack right in the face from doing that, and it's going to last a week or two, and you're going to feel pretty crappy. Okay, particularly if you're very overweight. People who are very overweight, these people already have insulin problems, right, that have been triggered from years and years of carbohydrate abuse and sugar abuse, and so these people, you need to step in slow. Okay. And people exercise too quick as well. If they're very overweight, or if they've never exercised before, they go on a ketogenic diet, they start training all in the 1 week. That's just, the body just doesn't know what's going on, right? And it's going to shut down everything in an attempt to sort of survive. So here's my advice. Number one, if you're overweight by more than a few stone, let's say by 30 pounds or more, do not go straight into a ketogenic diet. Particularly if you've never trained either, right? The muscles in your body, uncoupling protein 3 is not working correctly, which is involved in the shuttling of fuel in and out of the muscles. So if you can, we'll move on. We're not going to stay on the training, but for now, that's a talk for another day. I could be here for an hour before I never get back to what I came on to talk to you about. So let's stick with the plan. So you're overweight, 30 pounds. Or more. You want to go keto. What do? Start by reducing your carbohydrate. My recommendation is to go with a paleo sort of diet, a low carb paleo diet. Lower. Let's go 150 grams a day maybe from wherever you're starting. If you've never done any sort of low carb, your carbs are going to be in the 300 to 400s. Almost guaranteed. Bring them down to about 150. Use something like MyFitnessPal to record it. You don't need to record the rest of your food, right? That's for later on in more advanced stage. If you're coming new to something like this, don't be worried about how many calories you're eating. What you want to focus on is just calculating those carbs. Get them down to 150, okay? Paleolithic diet, remove all grains. Maybe consider moving the dairy as well if it's proper paleo. Some people, depending on where you are, live in the world, that's not always, I don't believe, always necessary. But anyway, get all those grains out. Do a Paleolithic down to about 150. Do that for maybe 4 to 6 weeks. then look at cutting it down to about 100 for another 2 to 3 weeks, and then step down to under 50. You know, if ketogenic is the full plan. You know, if you're already eating a Paleolithic diet, yeah, chances are you can probably just step straight down, go to under 50. You know, and you should be pretty much okay. Yeah, dairy. This whole dairy thing, I really think it depends on where you live. I'm Irish. We're about the most lactose tolerant people in the world. There can be an issue with casein protein. Some people react to that, and even some Irish people can. So, I mean, by all means consider reducing it, but don't make it your number one concern. Just get those grains out first, then get the rest of the starches and the sugars out. Sugars first, then all those grains and starches. Get them all out of there. Yeah. Another mistake that people, when they first go paleo, make is, well, the next biggest mistake, I suppose, has to be that they're eating hidden carbs. You know, they're eating too much fruit. They decide, well, you know, berries, not too, you know, blueberries aren't too bad, they're fairly low in sugar, so they start eating lots and lots of blueberries, you know, either with full fat cream or just in general with their food. And what happens is they end up spiking their blood sugar, and they can't get down to keto. So their body's bopping around near the bottom, and it's not quite happening. Okay. Another thing to consider is the amount of carbohydrate they are taking in. And don't forget, a full keto diet. In order to get full keto diet, your fruit has to be pretty much non-existent, maybe a few berries. But we're talking maybe 10, 20 grams. And the thing about it is that if you want to watch that the carbs you are taking in, even the vegetable ones, even if it's going to be a few blueberries, that they are spread out over a few meals. Yeah, you don't want them all in one. You want to keep those carbs down to about 5, maybe 10 grams at a push per meal, max. Okay, that brings me back another quick point about people 30, 40 pounds overweight coming into keto. The big advantage with keto is that, you know, you reduce your meals as well. You might only have 2 to 3, maybe 4. I personally, I think any more than 3 meals a day isn't really necessary. But if you are coming to keto from being very overweight, you really want to, don't worry about how many meals you're having. If it takes 6 meals a day for you to feel sated, then go for it. Your blood sugar levels are going to be jumping all over the place. The last thing you need to do right at the start is big long fasts, right? So stay away from fasting. Okay, you can do fasting when you're keto adapted, when you're fat adapted. Okay, and it's really easy to do fasts at that point. Whether it's intermittent fasting, 24-hour fasting, intermittent eating, all these different plans. Some of them are okay. They're fun to do sometimes. The weight loss benefits, they're a bit here and there. You know, people have a tendency to make up the food that they tend to skip. But from other health they do have huge other health benefits from fasting. Autophagy, apoptosis in the cells is all hugely increased by fasting, and very important for our overall health and longevity. Not to mention in situations like cancer and diabetes and other things. So keep it in mind, or not so much diabetes with fasting, but there have been reports of it helping with epilepsy and possibly even with autism, right? Don't quote me on that one, but there is some research out there. Another problem people make is they eat too many nuts. Okay, nuts tend, number one, they have too many omega-6s in them, so they tend to be very inflammatory. Yeah, so that's a real. If you're overweight, or you're coming from a very high carb diet where your bodies tend to be inflamed anyway, and then you're adding extra inflammation stimulators like omega-6s, right? I'm not saying don't eat the nuts, but really keep them as a snack. You know, 20, 50 grams a day, maybe. There is some issues as well with candida, what most people refer to as thrush. That can come from a mold. It can be increased from a mold that can be on nuts and nut products. Don't go panicking about it, don't go worrying about it. It happens, but it's not the end of the world, and you just reduce the nuts if you do. It generally just means you're eating too many of them. You can get the same sources, those very same spores from coffee, you know, particularly from ground coffee, or you can get it in cacao powder, you can get it in tea, you know, it's out there. So what I'm saying is just don't focus on the nuts, don't make them a major part of your keto diet, right? This is one of the problems vegetarians have and vegans have with keto. If they want to do a sort of keto diet, they tend to eat a lot of nuts, and this can be an issue, particularly the more inflamed. It's more about the inflammation than anything else, because if you're very overweight, you've been inflamed, right? Cortisol levels are high, stress levels are high, you know, omega-6s, that's just going to keep that stuff up there, and we're trying to get that down, okay? One other thing just to watch are the diet drinks. Aspartame, it's not really a food. You know, if you're going to have, it can, now Coke Zero, particularly those first few days, can be a lifesaver when the body is moving away from sugar, but they're not ideal, you know. Maybe a product with a little bit of stevia. Stevia would be massively better in that at least it is a food, it's not a synthetic food. It's made from an actual plant, you know. So go at that where you can. Again, in those first couple of weeks in an adaptation phase, I wouldn't be overly worried about the Coke Zero kind of thing, but don't go mad in it, you know. And as soon as you get used to the diet, get rid of that kind of stuff, you know. Get rid of all those artificial sweeteners. You don't need them, okay? Stick with real food, no processed food, real food. That is probably one of the key mistakes that people on keto make. They start buying these new Atkins bars or Cliff bars or other stuff. All that processed stuff is muck, right? Stay away from it. You may be on keto for 3 to 4 weeks and not be adapting, and you come to me and with your food diary, and I'm looking at it, and it's processed food after processed food after processed food. All these foods have chemicals in them. They all stimulate hormones in different ways, whether it's sweeteners or other things, emulsifiers. Try and stay away from them as much as possible. The easiest way to go keto adapted is real food. Okay, do it in the step down way, like I suggested, if need be, but and avoid those artificial sweeteners. Avoid those processed foods. Don't eat too many nuts. Avoid the hidden sugars. Make sure that most of the carbohydrate that you're getting is coming from veg. Okay. We're going to leave it there, guys. It's good to talk to you, Coach Aaron. Talk to you again. Bye.